everyone. Welcome to the joint Metro North and Long Island Committee's meeting. I would like to go ahead and have the public comments period begin now. Thank you.
Good morning. We have 10 members of the public registered to speak today. As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers, excuse me, that in the interest of time and fairness for all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Kara Girl, followed by Joseph Morales.
Good morning. I'm Kara Girl, Research and Communications Associate at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. Nearly a month since its opening, Grand Central Madison symbolizes a more unified transit system with both railroads and the subway under one roof. Next week, even more riders will stream through the complex when the full Long Island Railroad schedule is implemented. The MTA must ensure that all riders, whether they're regular commuters or first-time visitors, can navigate and transfer easily. With such a large station, it can be confusing to find your way around without prior knowledge of the best entrances, exits, and shortcuts. We're glad that the Wayfinding and Signage Task Force is looking for opportunities to improve navigation, and we recommend adding more, larger, and clearer signage throughout the new complex and the existing terminal. It's important that no hallway, track, or entrance is left unturned as you look for new places to add signs. As with service changes and other updates, over-communicating with the public will help ensure that people of all familiarity levels can understand. That's why we're disappointed to see that the new service plans have not incorporated feedback from thousands of public comments. The new schedules have only minor changes from the June draft schedules, despite assurances to riders that they could be modified based on feedback and were not final. Unfortunately, too little has changed. Last year, we called for public input sessions similar to those held for the Brooklyn bus network redesigns, smaller, more frequent workshops with information divided by geography or line to allow the railroad to listen to riders and adjust schedules. As the MTA works to recover ridership, it's important that riders feel heard going into this major service change. While many will enjoy faster commutes to the east side, the loss of one-seat rides to and from Brooklyn, less frequent service to Queens stations, a lack of timed connections, and peak service that requires commuters on some lines to leave work early or miss the last train home will negatively affect riders and the railroad. Many riders raised these issues in June without updates. Grand Central Madison is a major accomplishment, but service must be adjusted with public input to ensure that riders can truly benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joseph Morales, followed by Alita Dupree.
Good morning, everyone. My major concern, kind of to add on to the last speaker in regards to, well, it's not really Grand Central Madison specifically, but I am proposing that fares on the Metro North and Long Island Railroad be reduced to $2.75 for residents of the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens, as well as Manhattan from the east side north of 96th Street and the west side north of 110th Street, and fares be reduced to $1.35 for anyone living below the federal poverty line anywhere in the region. This would include free transfers to New York City Transit, and the MTA should also work with suburban transit agencies like the Westchester County B-Line system and the NICE system to offer free or reduced price connections to these services. This would enable New York City residents to get to Manhattan much faster, as well as access opportunities in the suburbs that they couldn't access otherwise. Many stations in the Bronx that are far from subway stations provide access to Metro North, and a lot of riders, such as in the Morris Heights area, don't have access to it. And a lot of these stations are empty, signifying potential for ridership, which would increase revenue for the MTA if you have more people paying $2.75 for better service versus not paying that fare at all. Also, when it comes to reduced fares, the Hell's Gate line in the Bronx is going to be a major project along the East Bronx. People cannot, from there, would find it a burden to pay a $7 to $9 peak fare. And that would limit the potential of what's supposed to be such a major project. And the combo ticket, you should also have fares of $5.50 for these residents. That way they could take advantage of all the opportunities that Grand Central Madison and the railroads have to offer throughout the region. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alita Dupree, followed by Charlton D'Souza.
It's good to be back with you. Good to talk about railroad today. First of all, before I forget, I got to listen to this really great podcast with your president, Kathy Rinaldi. It's on Transit Unplugged. It was very informative and enlightening. So I encourage you all to go out and listen to it and tell others about it. I enjoyed it. Thank you. So I've been watching a lot of videos about Grand Central Madison, and certainly when I get to New York, I plan to use it. There are many opportunities that I can create for myself to enjoy Grand Central Madison, such as if I fly into JFK, take the air train over to Jamaica, and then I'll get one of these Grand Central Madison. This is another way that I can experience Grand Central Terminal, because I believe you can never have enough Grand Central Terminal. And how do we work on our energy usage? There's this railroad in Los Angeles area called Metrolink. Been on it a few times. They use a renewable diesel product. We just got to get away from straight petroleum diesel and invest in newer and better things. And I'm still looking for Omni on the railroad. What will it look like? How do you do Omni? I guess it's now 52 platform positions in Grand Central, and do it in Penn Station in Jamaica. It's something that I don't know that's ever really been done before. So I would like to be able to take advantage of that using my contactless Visa card. So we got to get the drawings of that out. So thank you. Again, listen to the podcast. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charlton D'Souza, followed by Jack Nierenberg.
Good morning, everyone. Charlton D'Souza, president of Passengers United. And guys, I'm outraged with these new schedules. These new schedules are horrible. So let's look at something. So between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. on the Atlantic branch, right now you guys are running 7 trains under the current schedule. Under the new schedule, there's only going to be 4 trains. So that's a loss of 3 trains. And then between the 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. hour, there's a loss of 1 train. And you want people to go up the steps, walk, and then you want them to wait longer for a shuttle train to Brooklyn. This is ridiculous. And then it even gets better, actually worse. So Queens Village Hollis on weekdays, we've basically lost, we only have trains running hourly. It's the same schedule as before. You guys made everyone suffer. And, Queens passengers have paid so much into the city ticket system. We've given, millions has been made, but yet we still have these hourly schedules. And I think people should file a Title VI complaint against the railroad. This is ridiculous. These schedules are going to be a disaster. I think the Atlantic branch is going to be a mess, the Hempstead. And now you guys want to shut the Hempstead branch for an entire month to do construction on the bridge. Why weren't we properly told about this? So yeah, we're not happy with this. We've gotten thousands of complaints at Passengers United about what's going on at the railroad. This is going to be an epic disaster, and there's going to be a lot of complaints coming in. You guys didn't listen to us at these meetings last summer. Nobody did at the railroad. I like to give you guys praise when you deserve it, but I also like to criticize you guys. And this is it, guys. These schedules are not working for us. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jack Nierenberg, followed by Bruce Hain.
Good morning. This is Jack Nierenberg, the Vice President of Passengers United. When I spoke to this committee in June, I implored them to push the Greenport departure back, the peak PM train, from 5:04 to 5:39. I was blatantly disregarded. That did not happen. We're looking at the new schedules. The last peak PM train to Greenport is still at 5:04. This is unacceptably early. And I said, this is a no-brainer. What needs to happen is because that train's going to be rendered useless. People are going to be stranded. The train is now at 5:41. What needs to happen is that departure needs to be pushed back. It takes absolutely nothing. There's no signals on the line anyway, and the train would just be sitting in Greenport for a much greater amount of time if this is not dealt with immediately. And turns out I was not the only one who was disregarded. As my colleague mentioned earlier, Brooklyn is really being adversely affected the most. As my colleague mentioned, we're going to be losing 3 trains per hour on the morning peak and the evening peak. This is unacceptable. And why is it that the Babylon line gets at least 3 trains per hour, and during the peak times, they get trains every 3 minutes, while the Hempstead branch, the Long Beach branch, Far Rockaway, Brooklyn passengers are really being screwed, but all of those services are not being increased at all. And I'm going to speak to the second committee. This is really important. It's really unacceptable. All of these communities that are really being hit the hardest are lower income minority communities. This is unacceptable, and that's why this is also a Title VI violation. I'm going to speak to the second committee. This is a clear violation of the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The MTA has it on their website. I'm going to quote them. They are committed to providing non-discriminatory service, ensuring that no one is excluded from participation in, denied the benefits of, or otherwise subjected to discrimination in our programs, services, or activities on the basis of race, color, or national origin. Well, if all of these, I hate to say it, all these whiter communities on the Babylon branch are getting increased service, and keep in mind that the numbers we found out, we were lobbying in Albany back on Wednesday. We found out that the numbers that the railroad is comparing these increases to are pandemic level numbers. These are not pre-pandemic level numbers. So we're seeing no increase during the off-peaks and the weekends on the Hempstead, Far Rockaway, Long Beach, Port Washington, and especially Brooklyn. These are all the communities that are really going to be hit hardest. So expect a lot of these complaints coming, and I'm just really disgusted. If the president is not going to fix this immediately, and if this committee is not going to be fixing this immediately, I implore everyone. I have a plan. All of our demands are listed on this piece of paper. I'll give this to you when I'm done. But if this is not dealt with, and especially the president, I implore the president to step down and let someone else do it if she's not going to do it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrew Pollack, followed by Sally Wolf.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Pollack, and I am from Passengers United. So, let's talk about Grand Central Madison. Like my other colleagues have been talking about, this has been the subject all morning. I want to talk about the Port Washington branch. On the Port Washington branch, it seems that people want 3 trains per hour during the off-peak. And that is a good idea, especially with how bad the traffic has been on the Long Island Expressway. The MTA claims that they want people to go back to public transit. Well, 2 trains per hour on the off-peak is not going to do it on the Port Washington branch, especially because if you go east of Flushing and go all the way to Little Neck, that's considered a transit desert. And that is because we have no direct subway line to Manhattan. You have to go all the way to Flushing. So I'm hoping that can be discussed in the future. But I am looking forward to Grand Central opening next week. I will try to attend the grand opening next Monday, the 27th. I cannot wait to take one of the first Port Washington trains. I'll be going from Bayside that morning, and it's going to be a fun experience taking one of those trains to Grand Central. Lastly, I was going to bring this up last month, but I didn't. Why are there still wooden ties at Hicksville? I was in Hicksville back in January, and I noticed, wait a minute, there's still wooden ties at the station? But yet when I go west and go into Call Place, my ride to Mineola was smooth because of concrete ties. So can we please get concrete ties at Hicksville? It's just a simple request I have. So thank you very much, and I expect to be speaking again in March.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sally Wolf, followed by Bruce Hain.
Hey everyone, good morning. I'm Sally Wolf. I live in Flatiron, and I'm here to reiterate the idea for masked cars or small sections of cars on the LIRR and Metro North. I saw my friend Maggie on Saturday, and she lives in Auburndale, and she told me that anytime she takes the train, she thinks of me because she sees no one masking and she knows how uncomfortable, how unsafe I'd be. So I ask you right now to think of someone you love, a family member or a friend, whoever you know who needs to protect their bodies and feels cautious right now, just like Maggie thought of me. I'd imagine if you were my friend, you'd do anything to help that person that you are now thinking of feel just a little bit safer. This is your moment to do that, to do the right thing, to show that one of the things we learned from the pandemic is how hard it is to navigate the world, especially a densely packed piece of the world like a train, immunocompromised, and to use this position of yours to make it just a little bit easier, a little better. And the beautiful thing is that unlike so many of the other reasonable desires that I hear expressed by fellow speakers, this one costs almost nothing and is relatively simple to pilot. And as I shared with the full board last month, I've done a little personal experimenting anytime I've taken a train recently from Westport or Great Neck or Penn Station or Grand Central. If I was fortunate enough to get a small little section, if I boarded first, I worked really hard to protect it. And every time someone boarded, if they were unmasked and walked toward me, I just said, hi, if you sit there, if you sit next to me, would you mind please masking? I'm immunocompromised, or I have cancer, or I'm on chemo. And almost always they did the right thing. So I invite you to do the right thing to help us because you care. You're on the board in these committees because you care. So please care now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bruce Hain, followed by Murray Bowden.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and Chair. That's what you're supposed to say, right? I guess not anymore. Well, I'd like to address also CPOC or CP without the O or whatever you want to call it. Here's something in last month's AM New York. Hochul proposes payroll tax increase, casino revenue to save the teetering MTA, but fare hike's still coming. Well, I don't know the particulars of your financial position, but it would help if you wouldn't be doing these crazy infrastructure projects. For instance, well, I mean, I guess you're getting a freebie. I just found out about it from the DOT. Now, what they're doing, I don't know. These engineers, they perform miracles. The bridges at Jamaica, you know, they are expanding the spans on these bridges. One way or another, they're going to they're going to cut or they're going to reinforce, like when they're girder bridge with an I-beam girder. They're gonna reinforce these somehow with stressed concrete stressed stuff, or else have another what do you call it, a truss, added truss, or reinforce the truss. They're stretching these 100-year-old bridges, and they can do it. Maybe you'll get another 40, 50 years out of it. Good thing, I suppose, because they have to expand the road, and I guess LIRR and MTA is not going to pay for it. But, these crazy things, this bridge.
Mr. Hain, please conclude your
I
remarks.
intend to have this, I intend to address the CPOC at this time. I said that once already. That crazy bridge.
Mr. Hain, please conclude your remarks.
I intend to address the CPO. Have I spoken 4 minutes already?
You've spoken 2 minutes, sir.
No. Well, I intend to take 4, if that's all right.
Thank you for letting us know.
That's the 4th time I've said it, ma'am. That crazy bridge at Hall Interlocking and expanding platforms when you don't even have enough cars to do this job of running. You don't have enough rolling stock. And some of you know that. I'm sure of it. You don't have enough rolling stock. You're going to have shorter trains, not longer trains. You've had 12-car trains with 85-foot cars for 50 years. And still you don't have any signals out at the end of the platform. It's not because of the length of the platform. The platforms are long enough. You need to have signals at the end of the platform first, before you expand any platforms. Is that clear? And then I've gone over this Hall Interlocking. When you have 3 tracks come in and then they have to converge, it's customary for tracks to broaden out, to propagate at stations. You need to move it, I was wrong, it's not a train's width. You need to move it over 18 feet. It goes straight to track 3. I've drawn it out, and the outgoing track, it's 75 feet radius, and then it broadens. It's a compound curve. Coming in, it's a 950-foot radius all the way. So without changing the tunnel, you can make that radius smaller on the incoming track and move it over 18 feet. It works fine. It's about a 720-foot radius, so that's a good comparison to the long radius. That it's about 950-foot radius. As you come up from Atlantic, and then so you don't need this stupid bridge, because you need the bridge to have 6 tracks, to have a flyover for 6 tracks all the way.
Please conclude your remarks.
To New York. That's important. And you need to use the Rockaway Beach branch to do that. You have to do it. It's a disgrace. It's an international disgrace. Everyone knows it. Please.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Murray Bowden, followed by our final speaker, Jason Anthony.
4. Last Tuesday was a really exciting day for me. I got to go through Grand Central Madison. I found it. I walked it. It is absolutely fantastic. I had no idea that it was such a fantastically well done job. I walked all over, took the escalator downstairs to the tracks, long escalator. Coming back up the escalator, somebody says, "Hi, Murray." I have no idea who it was. We live in a changing time, people. There needs to be cooperation and a recognition that most people need to be treated fairly and honestly. The train horns are an example of how we fail to understand what they're for. They were designed many, many years ago when there were no electronics and no cell phones. And it turns out now that they're quite racist. Why do I say they're racist? Because if you have money, you pay for a quiet zone. They do a survey and they put lights up, and they don't blow the horn in your area. But if you don't have any money and you live in the Bronx, near the Botanical Gardens, they blow the train horn. Why? Well, the rules say we're supposed to. But those rules were written for a different age. Now we have electronics. There's a little thing up there that says train's coming in 10 seconds. So you tell everybody on a platform, step back from the train. It's going to be here in 10 seconds. We cannot figure that out. Now, there's got to be cooperation between Tony Kosha and Amtrak. You have it when you have to turn a line down for cooperation. It's your responsibility as members of this board to make sure that Amtrak understands this is a cooperative world. You don't live in it by yourselves. They have to stop blowing the horns indiscriminately. Tony knows who I am. Met him when he was at the Port Authority. I think it was the Port Authority. My position hasn't changed. Fairness counts. It's your responsibility to do this. I'm going to be 90. Oh, by the way, yeah, I'm going to be 90. Any of you know what this is? It's a do not resuscitate. Just ordered 4 of them, 1 for each car, 1 for the house, and 1 to carry with me. Because if something unexpected happens and I don't want to be resuscitated, I'm going to be 90 in June. I've had a great life. Thank a number of people who've helped me here, taught me. I didn't get this by myself. I've been taught. I listen. I learn. Time for some of you to take some responsibility for the future. Some of you have been here too long, as I've been here too long. Step aside. Let the next generation take over. Thank you all who have taken the time to teach me.
Thank you. The final speaker is Jason Anthony.
Good morning, Long Island Commuter Rail meeting. Jason Anthony here from the Atlanta Terminal station. Let's do some fact checking this morning around roadside doctor's appointment. I've been hearing some public speakers speaking about the Atlanta branch. I live within 5-minute distance from Atlanta Terminal, Brooklyn. Yes, we have lost. We're gonna lose as of February 27th, the Hempstead branch, the Far Rockaway branch, and some peak trips on the Long Beach, Babylon branch, and others. But yes, we're gonna receive the West Hempstead branch. But these trains are not gonna stop at Valley Stream. And this is bad for people like me that like to shop at Green Acres Mall. So, and people that like to shop at Roosevelt Field Mall that tend to take the railroad to Mineola and transfer to the N22 or 24 bus. So my proposal is to have some mainline trains like the Port Jeff and some Huntington trains ending at Atlanta Terminal, Brooklyn. And those on the Port Washington branch, stop complaining. You guys have enough service as is. So I'll see you guys later at MTA headquarters.
Thank you. Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you to this morning's speakers. For purposes of this meeting, Long Island Rail has the lead. And I also want to recognize my co-chair, Sammy Chu, who is joining us virtually. He could not make it in person. He's not feeling well. So, Sammy, we hope you feel better. And I'm also here with Robert Freed and Justin Vonacek, who are Senior Vice Presidents of Operations for Long Island Rail and Metro North, respectively, and they will be giving the reports on behalf of President Rinaldi, who could not make it today. Having said that, I would like to move on with the approval of the meeting minutes for January 30th. May I have a motion and a second? Thank you, thank you. Any questions or comments with respect to the meeting minutes? If not, all in favor? Meeting minutes approved. I see that there aren't any changes in the work plan.
Hold on.
Okay. And I will hand it over to Rob for a report on Long Island Rail and from Justin, for a report on Metro North.
Good morning. With almost 1 month in the books and an expansion to full service about to take place, the reviews for both Grand Central Madison and the initial Grand Central Direct shuttle service have been overwhelmingly positive. It was very gratifying showing off our new terminal to customers and watching them react to this incredible facility. It's a new era of flexibility and convenience for Long Island Railroad customers, and we know that it will be a place they'll be proud to call home for generations to come. As for Grand Central Madison's first ever ridership figures, beginning with the grand opening on January 25th and through February 10th, we transported on average 4,817 daily customers. That's 5,211 customers on average for a weekday and 3,535 customers on average for a weekend. We certainly expect those numbers to increase considerably in the coming weeks. We are extremely proud to report that full service to Grand Central Madison begins on February 27th, in conjunction with a complete timetable change, and we want everyone to know that no matter where or when you ride, your trip will change, and these schedules will be continually monitored and looked at, and where adjustments are needed and where practical, they will be made. With the new schedule, rush hour service to Manhattan will increase and be split between Penn Station and Grand Central Madison. 271 trains will be added to the weekday schedule, bringing us to a total of 936 daily trains, almost 300 of which will operate to or from Grand Central Madison. We're also providing greatly expanded reverse peak service on the Ronkonkoma and Port Jefferson branches. There will be more early morning, midday, evening, weekend, and reverse peak trains, and with the exception of our Port Washington branch trains, all trains will stop in Jamaica, providing more flexibility and transferability. There will also be more trains to and from Brooklyn. Most trains will either originate or terminate in Jamaica, where customers will likely have to transfer to complete their trip. We're increasing service to or from Atlantic Terminal by 30% over current daily service levels. Trains will run approximately every 12 minutes during peak and reverse period peak times, and approximately every 20 minutes weekdays, nights, and weekends. All Brooklyn trains will stop at Nostrand Avenue in East New York, which provides robust service to these communities. An overall service increase of 41% will bring about a lot of options, so we strongly recommend that our customers download and use the Train Time app or refer to our website for up-to-date scheduling and trip planning information. Now that Metro North and Long Island Railroad share a common terminal, it's only fitting that they have a ticket in common, and the new combo ticket will make traveling between Long Island Railroad and Metro North stations easier, less expensive, and more accessible. Start a trip on one railroad and transfer to the other railroad at Grand Central for a flat $8 fee. From there, you can travel to anywhere in that system. So the farther you travel, the more you save. Beginning February 27th, with the debut of full service to Grand Central Madison, Combo Ticket will be available for purchase from ticket machines, the Train Time app, and all ticket offices outside Manhattan. In the weeks leading up to full service, crews of both railroads have been busy with testing and maintenance of all ticket servicing machines. This includes ticket machines to ensure a successful debut. For more information and helpful travel tips, visit the Combo Ticket page on our website. See the best of both service territories while enjoying the freedom, convenience, and savings. In January 2023, Long Island Railroad served 4.6 million customers, a ridership increase of 66.3% versus last January. More detailed analysis can be found in the Long Island ridership narrative in the Key Performance Metrics book. Total on-time performance for the month of January was 97.69%, which marks the highest on-time performance for a January at the Long Island Railroad in recorded history. And all 12 of our branches operated at or above goal for the month of January. While the favorable weather conditions so far this winter certainly haven't hurt our performance, you can't run an on-time railroad if you don't have a safe railroad. And great on-time performance figures like these are proof that these two things are not mutually exclusive. Congratulations to all our employees, which include transportation, equipment, mechanical, safety, and engineering professionals, who all play an integral role in our operation. Major events which result in 10 or more late trains. There were 2 events for the month of January, the most significant of which occurred on January 13th during the AM Commission Hour, where a deceased trespasser was near the Flora Park station. This event negatively impacted on-time performance by 0.09%. For our fleet performance, our MDBF for the month of December was 321,473 miles, and year-end, as of December, was 229,824 miles, both above goal of 190,000 miles, and the third best recorded MDBF in our history. Our service delivery for January was 99.8% trips completed. On January 31st, the Long Island Railroad Maintenance Shop at West Side Yard was the site of President Joe Biden's announcement that the federal government is committing $292 million towards a critical early phase of the Hudson Tunnel project known as Gateway, which in part was constructed right under our shop. Upon completion, the project will improve reliability on Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. Orange-vested Long Island Railroad employees, many of whom were involved in preparing for the visit, flanked the president as he spoke from the podium. The president was very gracious as he met, shook hands, and took photographs with our employees. In addition, Governor Kathy Hochul, Senator Chuck Schumer, and our own MTA Chairman and CEO, Janno Lieber, were among the attendees. More than 10 years after Superstorm Sandy hit the region, there's still much work to be done to repair, strengthen, and prevent damage caused by severe weather events. One such project is in progress at Long Island City Yard, where we're in the process of constructing a perimeter flood wall with 9 floodgates, 3 pumping stations with backup generators, and a pair of electrified tracks for storage. The contract for this work was awarded a little over a year ago, and we expect beneficial use in the spring of 2024. Earlier this month, the Long Island Railroad and Metro-North Accessibility Task Force came together for their first joint meeting. Joining the MTA Office of Accessibility were agencies representing people with disabilities within the Long Island Railroad and Metro-North territories. This was a great opportunity for our 2 railroads to discuss and exchange ideas about ADA best practices. The goal of the task force is to work together with other government organizations to create an accessible and inclusive transportation system for all. The Office of Accessibility provided a summary of recent initiatives, included employee training, train time app features, website accessibility, and increasing accessibility information. Also discussed were Grand Central Madison ADA accommodations as well as upcoming capital projects focused on installing new elevators, accessibility ramps, and platform improvements included tactile warning strips. And finally, following today's MTA PD report, you'll hear from Acting MTA Chief Customer Officer Shanifa Riera, who will present the results of the 2022 Metro-North and Long Island Railroad Customer Satisfaction Surveys. That concludes my remarks. Are there any questions on these reports? I'll turn it over to Justin Vonacek for the Metro-North report. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. We are incredibly excited about the opening at Grand Central Madison and the launch of Combo Ticket and the tremendous benefits these will bring to riders on both railroads. I echo Rob's sentiments in saying this brand new transportation hub, located in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, will be a home for generations of commuters to come and will be critical to the future of Metro-North. Moving on to ridership. Metro-North served 4.5 million customers in January, a ridership increase of 86% from last January, and representing 65.2% of January 2019's ridership. The seasonal ridership dip of 3% from December was less than what is typical between December and January before the pandemic. Traditionally, there are fewer off-peak discretionary trips made in January than in December. However, The average weekday ridership in January was essentially flat compared to December and increased 84% compared to January 2022. With the holidays over and winter settling in, average weekend ridership in January decreased 12% compared to December, but increased 86% over January a year ago. More detailed analysis can be found in Metro North's ridership narrative in the Key Performance Metrics book. January system-wide OTP was 98.3%, well above goal of 94%. There was one major incident that negatively impacted January's OTP by nearly 1%. On January 29th, a trespasser on the right-of-way near Melrose in the Bronx caused us to stop train operations until the trespasser exited the right-of-way. As a result, there were 124 late trains. Regarding the fleet, the MDBF for the month of December was nearly 245,000 miles, above goal of 175,000 miles. We closed out the year at nearly 234,000 miles, 34% above goal. As safety remains at the core of all that we do, we are currently investigating the recent derailments on the New Canaan branch and west of Hudson Port Jervis line. While no passengers were involved in these incidents, these events did cause delays for some of our customers. We want to reassure the public that we are committed to ensuring a safe operation for our customers, employees, and the communities we serve. We have two major long-term infrastructure projects set to begin at Metro North. The first is on the Park Avenue Viaduct, which is the main artery that serves Grand Central Terminal. We received board approval of the design-build contract award for Phase 1 partial replacement and repair of the viaduct. The overall project will involve replacing major segments of the East Harlem elevated steel structure, nearly half of which dates back to 1893. It's an investment in the future of Metro North, especially when you consider all the Metro North trains must utilize the Park Avenue Viaduct when traveling to or from Grand Central Terminal. Major construction is expected to begin in the third quarter of 23, with Phase 1 project completion anticipated for 2026. The second project is equally as vital to Grand Central, the Grand Central Terminal train shed, a rail yard located north of the Grand Central Terminal bumping posts. The roof of the train shed supports roadways and sidewalks of a large portion of Park Avenue between East 43rd Street and East 57th Street, and the crossing streets roughly between Lexington and Madison Avenues. The train shed structural framing is over 100 years old and has deteriorated due to street water intrusion issues. Needless to say, it's not a structure to be ignored, and so a plan has developed to gradually replace the train shed roof. Connecticut DOT began work on February 13th to replace elevators at Stanford Station, Metro North's busiest station outside of Grand Central Terminal. The project plan calls for the contractor to replace elevators on each platform one at a time. To accomplish this work, ConnDOT will be taking one platform out of service at a time, which will reduce the overall capacity for train operations. As a result, a service plan was developed that maximizes the use of the remaining platforms while work takes place on the island platforms. The adjusted service plan suspends a Stanford stop on 4 westbound and 3 eastbound AM peak trains and 6 eastbound PM peak trains. No weekend trains will be affected. ConnDOT expects the work on the island platforms to be complete by August. In the latter part of 22, we completed signal cutover for the first of 4 critical interlockings in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx. These interlockings are currently undergoing major communication upgrades, and this resiliency program occurs at the convergence of the Hudson and Harlem lines. Until now, all 4 interlockings were controlled by a 50-year-old analog technology at a central control location. We anticipate by the end of this year, all 4 interlockings will be upgraded to state-of-the-art fiber optic and microprocessor-driven control systems, greatly improving the reliability, availability, and maintainability of the system. Once upgraded, each interlocking will function independently. This eliminates the current central control location as a single point of failure and improves the overall resiliency of the operation. Earlier this month, we celebrated Grand Central Terminal's 110th anniversary. There is no other building in the world that has such a rich and inspiring legacy than Grand Central Terminal. MTA officials, including NYCT President Rich Davey, Metro North and Long Island Railroad President Kathy Rinaldi, and I, marked this occasion by greeting commuters arriving at the terminal with a small token of remembrance of this momentous occasion. Grand Central Terminal, one of New York's iconic landmarks, opened its doors on February 2nd, 1913. Before becoming home to Metro North in 1983, and undergoing a complete renovation under the MTA between 1994 and 1998, the building was near destruction. In 1975, The terminal was threatened by a redevelopment project, but was rescued by the advocacy of former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis and the approval of the United States Supreme Court, and later added to the National Register of Historic Places. Another initiative that I'm excited to discuss is the ongoing capital program for the Upper Hudson Line. As part of this program, we have included the restoration of the Track 3 Beacon Station platform, which has played a crucial role in providing customer service and efficient train operations while maintenance work takes place on the Upper Hudson. Beacon is the only station with a third track and platform in the 35 miles between Cortland, just north of Croton-Harmon, and Poughkeepsie. Track 3 is an existing track that was built in the 1990s with a temporary platform to support a substantial infrastructure renewal project. The temporary platform surface was removed when the projects were completed, but the base structure was left to support another temporary platform if it was needed in the future. The foresight was rewarded during the current capital program when we restored the platform service and built a new ADA-compliant ramp. Along with significant operational and customer service advantages, one of the highlights regarding this restoration is that we're taking advantage of existing unused infrastructure, which made this project less costly than building a new structure. Now, whether we're working on the Beacon platform refurbishment, periodic tie and rail replacement, or any future projects, we have a newly restored platform where two trains can pass each other instead of having to operate on a single track. And I wouldn't want to wrap up this month without bidding a fond farewell and congratulations to our outgoing Vice President of Maintenance Away, Dave Malillo, who leaves Metro-North after 30 years. Dave was a champion of safety and took great care of structures and right-of-way throughout his illustrious career. We wish Dave a long, healthy, and well-earned retirement. That concludes my remarks, unless there's any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, back when my foggy memory was kicking in, maybe like 10 years ago or so, 12 years ago, we replaced the viaduct, the Atlantic Ave viaduct for the Long Island Railroad, and we did it in terms of design build and a lot of operational gizmos to be able to get it all done fast and without interfering in service so much. When you go about replacing the viaduct in Upper Manhattan for Metro North, are you planning on following the same game plan as that was, or I'm not looking for too much in terms of comparables because it's very complex systems. On the other hand, are you going to follow this general game plan that we spent a lot of exercises patting ourselves on the back on the Atlantic branch reconstruction? Are we following the same plan at Metro North on the Upper Manhattan?
So I don't think we have anybody here from C&D that can address that, but I can assure you that it's going to be done in the most efficient way possible, and it's going to be done with minimal to no impact to train service, so our customers will be able to traverse the viaduct without any impact. And the majority of the work's going to be done on the weekends.
Thank you.
We could get back to you with further details if needed, though.
Hi. So I think this is building upon Commissioner Brown's question regarding the viaduct, and I understand maybe that's for construction and development. Would be good to get an understanding of is there a thinking around like design build or thinking around kind of innovative or alternative capital delivery packages. I understand that's for construction and development, but if somebody could get back to us on that, that'd be great. I have a second question. This is regarding Grand Central Madison. So is this the right time to ask that question? Okay, great. Thanks, Chair. So my understanding is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there are a lot of escalators at Grand Central Madison, and my understanding, and I've heard that there may be like 2 or 3 elevators only at Grand Central Madison. So if somebody could just get back to me on, one, the right number of elevators at Grand Central Madison. I'm thinking of folks using strollers. I'm thinking of folks using wheelchairs, making sure that if they can't use the escalators, do they have a similar level of service when it comes to elevators? And then to ensure that maybe like, making sure those elevators don't go out at the same time. So I had heard that like on day 1 or day 2, there were issues with the escalators. Would love to learn more about the elevator situation at Grand Central Madison. Thank you.
Just a quick comment on that. And I don't have the total number of elevators off the top of my head, but I think the 2 elevators refer to what goes from the concourse to the mezzanine
Yes,
level,
I'm thinking
not
about
throughout the whole
Yes, thank you for correcting that. Yeah, and so I am curious about, like, in order to get egress to like the place where you can actually use the transportation services, how many elevators are, and does that is that similar in terms of accommodations, given I think there's like 20 escalators at Grand Central Madison. I would just love to learn a little bit more about that to make sure that, you know, as I go to Grand Central Madison, I'm going to go with my stroller and my baby. So I would love to make sure that there are those kind of options for people who might not be able to easily use escalators. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Chairwoman, this is Harry
Yes.
Moore.
Yes,
I have a
Commissioner
west,
Ford.
I have a west of Hudson question. There was an incident, a disruption of service in on the port service line this month. I was wondering if I could have a more of an expansive explanation as to what happened there.
So as of right now, the investigation is still ongoing, but we're happy to get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to our safety reports. We will hear from Lori Ebighausen, who will provide the Long Island Rail Safety Report, and then moving on to Shelley Prettyman, who will report on Metro North.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Our safety report can be found on page 18 of your metrics book, and we are reporting on the period ending December of 2022. Our customer injury rate decreased to 2.53 per 1 million customers for the reporting period, and our employee lost time injury rate slightly increased to 4.37 for this reporting period. For the employee injuries, we're working very closely. Soft tissue injuries continue to be a focus of our attention. Walking, climbing, material handling continue to be the activities that seem to cause the most challenges. So we are continuing to work closely with the operating departments, with our labor partners, and also sharing best practices with our friends at Metro North to try to continue to drive those numbers down. We do have a number of crafts and tasks that we will be focusing on that we saw based on trending in 2022. And on the customer safety side, we'll be out in force next week supporting operations and, of course, supporting all of our customers as we transition to this new service at Grand Central Madison. So we look forward to working with everybody and ensuring a safe and smooth journey for you as we embark on this historic new service. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, Ms. Valdivia.
Hi, so I am looking, and maybe this applies also to the New York City Transit book. So I'm looking at the new kind of performance books that you all have. So I love seeing the trends. However, I'm struggling a little bit with the fact that it's difficult to see the actual kind of raw number. And so thinking about, and maybe that's just feedback for Kathy, I'm thinking about how to also provide board members that kind of information that is detailed in a way that doesn't overwhelm the book, but it's hard for me to see, like, are we talking about 7.8 million riders in 2019? Are we talking about, you know, I'm just looking at page 12. Are we talking about 4.7 versus 4.3? I think those kind of things are important for board members to know. So thank you.
Shelley?
Okay, good morning. So Metro North Safety Report can be found starting on page 28 of the committee book. And first to summarize where Metro North stands with customer employee injury rates, and this is again for the current 12-month reporting period of January 22 through December 2022, compared to the prior 12 months covering calendar year 2021. So the reportable customer injury rate increased from 1.99 to 2.34 per 1 million customers, and the reportable employee lost time injury rate increased from 2.00 to 2.18 per 200,000 working hours. So to address the uptick in these rates, we continue to both investigate each incident that occurs and take proactive steps to prevent incidents. So slips, trips, and falls constituted the most frequent injury type for both customers and employees. And so the investigation of each incident includes, just as examples, looking at environmental factors such as lighting and terrain. And proactive steps include regular inspections of stations, yards, shops, and locations along the right-of-way, The field safety team completed over 250 of those inspections year to date just in 2023, and the findings are shared with the operating departments for corrective action. So those are just a couple of examples. I want to note that the Safety and Security Committee book this month actually includes an updated summary of some key programs and initiatives for actually each railroad for calendar year 2022. And so that reflects efforts across all divisions in the Metro North Office of System Safety. So that concludes my remarks. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Chief Taffy from MTA PD who will be giving a report on behalf of Chief Mueller. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Crime in Metro North and Long Island Railroad remains low in the month of January, as reported, with approaching the ridership of nearly 9 million people. Each district reports single-digit numbers, with most districts actually reporting 5 or fewer crimes. The one concern that we have is grand larcenies that have been ticking up, but the majority of them are unattended packages, and we continue to speak to riders about leaving packages behind, and if we see it, if the police officers see it during train patrol or during their patrols in the stations, they alert the passengers as such. Speaking of train patrol, we've built on the success and the popularity of train patrol in January, with doubling the number of train patrols from 2,000 last January to 4,000 this January.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms.
Hi.
Valdivia.
Hi, thank you, Chief. So in your statistics, do you all ever make distinction between crimes or harassment that women face in the commuter railroads?
Sorry. We can, yes. I don't have.
Okay, is that something that you all could pull up for us? And, you know, Chair, I was looking at a couple of media reports regarding harassment and crime against women in our public transit system, and there was actually a pretty high-profile case out in San Francisco, including where a San Francisco board member was harassed. And so I just wanted to kind of better familiarize myself with the issue regarding the challenges that women face in public transit, especially on the commuter railroad. So really appreciate that. Thank you. I'll follow up.
Yes, we've looked at transit crime, which is there's just recently, and it's still mostly men who are victims of crime. Generally,
Okay.
for commuter crime, we'll take a look at it. It's much lower numbers, obviously, but we can take a look to see if there's any discrepancies.
Yeah, I mean, the first step might just be really understanding or calling to creating transparency about the data. Just to see, is this something that's on the rise? Is this an issue? I believe this is something that the New York Times recently reported on, specifically for subways or buses. So I was curious about if anything was happening with the commuter railroads. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have our presentation. Shanifa Riera will now report on the customers count survey.
Thank you,
Shanifa?
Chair. Good morning, everyone. I am pleased to present the finding of our fall customer count survey for both the Long Island and Metro North Railroads. The fall 2022 customer satisfaction survey was conducted to obtain ratings and key drivers of customer satisfaction. We also wanted to understand why customers were using the railroads far less than before the pandemic. As a way of background, the online survey was conducted between November 21st through December 5th. With approximately 16,000 Long Island Railroad responses and 17,000 Metro North responses. Customers were super participant and gave great feedback. The data was weighed using census to adjust for income and minority status, and for riders using average weekday customer count. Here are some of the key takeaways. Long Island Railroad customer satisfaction remained high at 81% since the last survey was conducted back in the spring. Metro North overall satisfaction remained extremely high at 89%. Of our customers were either satisfied or very satisfied. That is up from 87%. For customers who are riding less, nearly 2/3 listed their top reasons were the ability to work from home. As mentioned on the prior slide, Long Island Railroad continues to have a high score of 81%. And Metro North rises to 89%, which is exceptionally great news. Other good news for Metro North is our very dissatisfied customer group is shrinking, whereas our very satisfied customer group is growing. This slide shows our key driver analysis and attributes that are most important and how our customers rate us on those attributes. The top section shows drivers we understand to be very important to our riders, while the second larger set ranks less important. The horizontal bar shows overall satisfaction with that element, green being very satisfied and blue just satisfied. You can see in the very important section, the purple circles are most common, showing service is more important than just about anything else. And we're happy to report service reliability. Our core business had an excellent satisfaction score of 82%. The attributes rated are most important for Long Island Railroad customers is fares. The ratings for fares is up 3 percentage points since the spring and is moving in the right direction. Our personal security scores are also increasing. Personal security at destination is up 6 percentage points. Personal security on board, people behaving erratically at destination stations, and homelessness at destination stations are all up 3 percentage points. This can be attributed to the work that we are doing with our extended partners to keep our system safe and secure. Our customers are also noticing our clean trains as we see a 3 percentage point increase in cleanliness on board. Let's look at branch level results for the Long Island Railroad, shown here in alphabetical order. The largest gain was Oyster Bay, which is up 6 percentage points since the spring. This may be attributed to the completion of the third track project and the restoration of full weekend service on this branch. Customers on the Far Rockaway branch gave us the highest overall satisfaction rate of 87%. Let's turn our attention to our highest rated Long Island Railroad stations. The station surveyed allowed us to drill down and provide information throughout the organization on the 125 stations we own and operate. To make the sample size reliable, we ensured that we had at least 100 respondents per station. Sayreville, New Hyde Park, Oceanside, Manhasset, and Douglaston were our top performers. For each of these stations, we have also included key drivers of overall satisfaction, such as personal security, people experiencing homelessness, and people behaving erratically. We are pleased to hear from our customers that they appreciate the new Hyde Park station, which was just renovated last June. And customer satisfaction scores jumped to 94%, a 9 percentage point increase. We continue to stay focused on attributes that drive overall satisfaction scores, such as personal safety, people behaving erratically, and people experiencing homelessness. Now, let's look at the lowest rated station among the 125 we own and maintain. We strive to improve customer satisfaction by focusing on station-level drivers. The lowest 3 out of the 5 stations are within city terminal zones: East New York, Hunters Point Avenue, and New York's Penn Station. We are working hard on the renovations at Penn Station and have already seen a 12 percentage point increase in reports of station satisfaction since the spring. Switching to Metro North, the attributes most important to our customers are also mainly attributes that are service related. Like Long Island Railroad customers, service reliability is very important attribute, and they score a high 89%. Seat availability is the second most important attribute identified by our customers. This is no surprise, as during the time frame that the survey was underway, ridership was increasing while the constant level were decreased. I'd like to point out that our customers feel extremely safe and secure on our trains, as shown by the overwhelmingly high safety of incidents where fully 95% are satisfied. They feel very secure and personal safety on board are at 90%. Again, we are mindful of destination stations, New York Penn Station, where scores for people behaving erratically at destination stations have fallen short of customers' expectations. Now let's look at line results for Metro North. The Hudson, Harlem, and New Haven lines all achieved high satisfactory scores. The Hudson and New Haven lines each had overall satisfaction increases of 3 percentage points, while Harlem remained constant at 89%. Let's turn our attention to the highest rated Metro North station. Pleasantville, Irvington, Bronxville, West Haven, New Canaan are the top performers. We continue to stay focused on these attributes that drive overall satisfaction scores, such as personal safety, people behaving erratically, and people experiencing homelessness. And now for the lowest rated stations within the Metro North region. Let me first point out that these scores are actually not low at all, but we strive to improve by focusing on station level key drivers. The lowest station on the list is Harlem 125th Street. Though conditions have improved there, which is reflecting in the increase of station satisfaction moving from 56% to 63% satisfied from the fall 2022. Lastly, the survey asked customers who are riding less frequently than before the pandemic, what were their top reasons? And as you might expect, work from home is overwhelmingly the main reasons our customers have reduced usage. Other reasons include COVID concerns and costs. These findings are very similar to those of the spring 2022 customer count survey results, though we see the impact of COVID is diminishing. At this time, I would like to thank the customer research team for their hard work in pulling this project together, and I'll take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riera. Any questions?
Blanca?
Yes. Sammy?
Randy?
Oh, Randy. Yes, go ahead.
So I noticed that for the Metro North report, missing again, I raised this issue the last time, is west of Hudson. We have 8 stations on the Port Jervis line and 3 on the Pascack Valley. How come those survey was done there? Years ago, I used to sign the surveys and help distribute them to people. So it's troubling that you're not interested in what we're having to say on the west side of the Hudson.
I can take that question. We're working closely with our partners at NJ Transit who conduct regular surveys on this service. And we are currently working with them to collect and analyze their recent findings.
That's not acceptable. It should be presented in the meeting. This is Metro North. You should have had some data to present to the board about what's going on. How soon will we get a report?
We're looking forward to getting some information from them over the next couple of weeks.
So you'll include it in a subsequent committee book?
Yes, we can do that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Any other questions? Ms. Valdivia?
Hi. Do you all mind going back to the slide that shows why people aren't going back to commuter railroads? I thought one statistic was interesting, and so correct me if I'm wrong. There was one that showed, I think it was the last slide, 14% of riders said they have COVID concerns. The other, like maybe 28 other % of riders said they have COVID concerns. Is there a difference between those? Oh, I see. Okay, so it's not aggregated. One was in the spring, one was in the fall. Okay, thank you. So it is declining. But it's still 14%, which is super interesting. You know, we've heard from so many people in the public comments discuss masks and whether there's an opportunity here or whether we should continue masking or encouraging masking on the train. So I was just looking at that in reference to it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mack.
Apropos to the mask situation, I'm on the board of Northwell. Lenox Hill, as of last week, has 8 people in COVID. 8. And that's right in the heart of Manhattan. So it's certainly a major downturn. Flu is up, though.
I think as a person that has suffered probably all of the different illnesses this past fall, yes, flu, respiratory diseases are up. It's incredible how much is happening in our system. So thanks.
Questions? Okay, we'll move on to agency information items. Rob, can you please take us through the information items for this month for Long Island Rail?
All the information items are listed in the book. We went over some of the operating reports, but the annual operating reports are in the book. The winter track work and the budget information as well is in the book.
Thank you so much. And Justin for Metro North?
Same for Metro North, all in the book.
Thank you. Agency finance reports. Rob and Justin, can you please report on this month's finance reports for each rail? Or is it the same scenario?
Yes, yes.
You can find everything in your board packets. I apologize. Procurement. There is one procurement, I believe, for Metro North. Mr. Gardner, would you like to talk about that?
Yes. Good morning. There, as mentioned, there is one procurement item for Metro North. It's a Metro North is seeking MTA board approval to modify a competitively negotiated miscellaneous service contract in a not to exceed amount of $7.5 million for the continuation of as-needed emergency and scheduled bus service awarded to 5 firms: A Yankee Bus Line, Community Coach, Greater Bridgeport Transit Authority, Leprechaun Lines, and Peter Pan Bus Lines. The additional funding is required for the continuation of scheduled bus service to support capital projects such as the New Canaan Branch cyclical track work, the Mudna Viaduct timber replacement and inspection project, as well as the continuation of supplemental Bridgeport to Waterbury shuttle bus service. The contract modification totaling $7.5 million will be funded by Metro North's operating and capital budgets and by the Connecticut Department of Transportation. CONDOT will reimburse Metro North 100% for the cost of bus service on the New Canaan, Danbury, and Waterbury branch lines. Are there any questions?
May I have a motion and a second? Motion, Mr. Tessitore. Mr. Bergman, second. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. And this brings us to a conclusion of our meeting. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn? Motion. Thank you. And all in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.